the kids for Sunday school, so more than welcome. Go ahead. All right. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. You know, it's. I'm always glad to be up here on the pulpit, and it's such a huge honor to be here today. And as I look out into the crowd, I'm always inspired to see the eager faces that are here today, eager and willing to listen to the good news. Now, understandably, we're in July, and so it is the thick of summer. We're in vacation mode right now. So, but you know, I'm convinced that there's no better place to relax your soul than here in the house of the Lord today.
Amen.
I often consider going to church and being a part of the worship and listening to the Word as a warm bath that prepares you for the week ahead. It's so relaxing. It's so rejuvenating. So again, thank you so much for those of you who are in attendance. Maybe it's your first time. Maybe you're returning. Thank you so much for joining us here today. So 2 weeks ago, I get a call from Pastor in what I thought was early in the morning. But, you know, in reality, it's like 9 a.m. And when I saw him calling, I had so much of a panic attack for some reason. And I was sleeping at the time. And for some reason, I just didn't want him to know that I was sleeping. So I got up and I saw, you know, Pastor Quaresma's calling. And I did everything I could in two rings to be, you know, sound like I've been awake. So, you know, slap myself a little bit, clear my throat, and I like take deep breaths. And I'm like, all right, and now I will answer the phone. So after 3 rings, you know, I answer the phone, and instantly, Pastor's like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up. So my cover was completely blown from there. But, you know, we continued on with a casual conversation. And usually it goes with, you know, the pleasantries. Hello, how are you doing? How's your day? Do you have anything planned for today? That sounds great. This and that. And then he was asking, you know, he's like, hey, so Reuel, you know, you got any plans? July 17th, you just got any plans? And I got excited for a moment because I thought I was getting invited to a party. So I was like, oh, plans? What? Maybe. And, you know, personally, again, I was on summer vacation mode. So I wasn't too sure what day that was. So I was like, the 17th, let me, you know, check my calendar. And, you know, I didn't want to commit to something that far ahead. But eventually, Pastor just started talking about this vacation he had kind of planned out, and this, you know, Billy Graham talk he was going to participate in and be there for it. And instantly, I knew, oh, okay, so I guess I'll be speaking on that day. You know, there was no discussion or negotiation. I was just like, all right, you know, you got it, Pastor. What do you want me to talk about, though? And so, you know, so here we are today. Now, as many of you know, Pastor has been going through a series of stories from the Old Testament. He asked me to continue that pattern and assigned me a very famous Bible story. Pastor wanted me to delve into the ever-popular story of Noah. Now, it doesn't matter if you've been a Christian your entire life or one that's been far from the faith. The story of Noah is widely shared around the world. You know, as a matter of fact, I believe they created a spoof comedy on the movie called Evan Almighty in the early 2000s, the one that's featuring Steve Carell. And that's based on the story of Noah there. But today I won't be reading word for word the few chapters that compose Noah's story. That isn't my prerogative. I don't think they'll be as fruitful. Instead, I want to do a quick overview and focus more on a few verses, as well as a few key concepts and correlations to our own personal lives. Now, before Noah's story, the few chapters prior really set the environment in which he lived. Those chapters touched on the fall of man through Adam and Eve, as well as the fighting brothers of Cain and Abel. You know, those stories are very important when understanding the world in which Noah inhabited. It's not one just filled with sin, but as described in the Bible, it was filled with evil. And that's a whole different tier of sin. That's the purest form of sin. And God noticed that evil was inhabiting his beautiful creation of the earth, but saw Noah and deemed him righteous. Now, with that in mind, God created a covenant with Noah, keeping him safe from destruction, and dictated specific instructions to Noah that consisted of building a boat that was 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Additionally, God told Noah to gather his family, along with 2 animals of every kind, and food that will last him the storm. Now, this next verse is very important. Genesis 6:22 states, "So Noah did everything exactly as God had commanded him." This one verse encapsulates Noah's entire faith and relationship with God. It's absolutely amazing when you come to think about it. Literally, after being told that the world around him would be destroyed, and with only a verbal promise that he and his loved ones would be safe, albeit it's from God, Noah did everything exactly as God had commanded him. Noah didn't question. He didn't argue. He didn't act on his own regard. Noah trusted and followed. You know, Christians tend to lean upon the story of Job when talking about faith. But here we are, 6 chapters deep into the first book of the Bible, and we see an individual with a devout, unshaken trust in God. You know, I have a theory. I believe that the older we get, the less we listen to or follow directions. Right? The older we get, the less we listen to or follow directions. When we were children, we had teachers and we had parents and mentors and kind of just general older people that would tell us what to do or lead us along a certain way. But as time moved on, we grew up. We began to build a confidence within ourselves. We had to make our own decisions. We started defining what's, I'm going to quote unquote this, the right way. You know, one of my first jobs in college was being a daycare teacher. I was a daycare assistant for North Queen Anne Child Care, and I realized something about being a daycare worker. The children that just followed directions had such a better stay than the children that didn't. You know, and it's kind of amazing to me because it's not like I'm asking the kids the world. I'm not asking them, hey, can you solve the answer to life? Or, hey, what's the purpose of me being here? No, I'm just asking you, hey, Cindy, just don't pull that kid's hair, or, hey, you should probably, clean this mess up. And I had 2 specific students. Now, one was this little girl, and she was Asian. And she's tiny, she's so nice, so cute, and she just followed everything that we said. All the teachers, she was the dream student. And she would, we would tell her, all right, it's time to eat, and she would eat, okay, it's time to play, and she'd go out and play. And then I think this is the real telling tale of a good student, or at that age, it's like, hey, it's time to go take a nap. And not only did she take a nap, she tucked herself in. Like, literally, I didn't have to do anything in that regard. And so I was like, man, this is the dream. You're great. Can I have you every day? But then there was this other kid. And it's this little boy. She's extremely rowdy. Oh, boy. He was just, he'll argue with the teachers. He'll throw his food at other kids. He'll steal the other kids' food and then eat it. Which I was just like, man, he's out of control, he's just trying to run amok. And every time that I saw him, it was always in some sort of disciplinary manner. He was always in the corner, or he was getting talked to by a teacher. And it was always just kind of like, oh, here we go. This kid's in trouble again. What did he do this time? And, even for a kid, his stay at that daycare was extremely miserable. In that single verse, Genesis 6:22, it completely summarizes Noah's fate. So Noah did everything exactly as God had commanded. God spoke, and Noah didn't just listen. He followed direction. Noah was told that the entire world would be flooded, then advised to build a huge ark, gather up 2 animals of every kind along with his family, and stay there while the world around him was being destroyed. Now, this is not in a figurative way either, but literally being destroyed. Mayhem and chaos would ensue. God did, however, guarantee that Noah and his family would be safe. But regardless, Noah did everything exactly as God had commanded. Now, we all know what happens next. The flood occurs and does everything as God had mentioned to Noah. It lasts for 371 days total. And of course, we are given the rainbow, which symbolizes God's covenant to the world, that he will never flood the earth again. Now, this is usually where the Sunday school lesson kind of ends, and the big the end happens, and here we all, we enjoy some snack time afterwards. Sadly, I don't have any snacks with me personally today. I don't have the budget for that. I think there's some donuts in the back, though. Faith is $1 million word in Christianity. It's such a beautiful term. It's something we hear very often, especially around our Christian brothers and sisters. I've attended a Christian university for 5 years, and constantly I have my friends and my professors ask me, how's your faith, Reuel? Have you been working on your faith? Faith this, faith that. We can all talk and profess about how wonderful it is to have faith. But talking about faith and the application of faith are 2 totally different things.
That's right.
Now, personally and professionally, I believe talk is cheap. Talk holds no weight without action. Anyone can say the right things, but actions legitimize your words. James 2 mentions faith without works is dead. I'm not talking about acts of service, which is one interpretation of that verse. I'm talking about obedience. I'm talking about living your faith and not just mentioning it. Honest question for you all. Honest question. When was the last time you really listened and fully trusted God's path for you? Especially during the difficult times or big decisions in life. When was that? 2 weeks ago, I attended a wedding over in Portland for a close friend of mine. And afterwards, all my college friends in attendance slept over at my other friend's childhood home. Now, I'm very close with his parents, and they were one of my biggest supporters while I was sick. So later that evening, when all my friends decided to go out, I stayed in because I wanted to catch up with the parents. Now, this is very important to note, but my friend and their family experienced a terrible tragedy during my sophomore year of college. One of their sons passed away in a car crash a few days before Christmas. This was a devastating loss, And the mother took it especially hard. So as my friend's mom and I sat down, I asked her, Miss Edwards, $1 million question. How are you doing? And she slightly smiled and replied, I'm doing fine. Now, every guy in the world knows that if a woman says that they're doing fine, something isn't right. The end of the world is soon to follow. It's one of those guarantees in life that accompanies death and taxes. So I tell her, Miss Edwards, you can be honest with me. I'm gone tomorrow morning, and I don't know when the next time I'll see you. And after that, instantly she lets down the walls. She tells me she survived. And a lull in the conversation occurs. After a few moments of silence, she lifts her head and smiles. She talked of recently depending heavily in God for guidance. She touched on understanding that there was no possible way of continuing life on her own accord. She wanted to live life for both her and her son. She told me, however God wants to use my life, I will follow. She's a heavily involved leader at her church and a mentor to many young women today in our community. Can we all be perfectly vulnerable for a moment? Just for one moment. I understand that church brings a general formality out of people. I mean, look at me, I'm in a suit and tie right now. But for this one moment, I just want to open the floodgates. I have no clue where you are mentally, emotionally, spiritually, any of that. Some of you, in your minds, may have drifted from the moment I took the mic. Maybe you're thinking, what am I going to do for the rest of the day? It is a beautiful day outside. Or, I'm kind of hungry and it's nearing noon. Where am I going to go eat? What I do know is this, that we are all sailing along life's journey on our own personal boats. Some of you may be facing a storm at the moment. Maybe it's been happening for a while. And for others, maybe you see dark clouds on the horizon coming your way. I want to challenge you this morning. And I want you to work on this challenge for today. This isn't like a New Year's resolution. Right now, we're in the month of July, which means we are halfway completed with the year 2016. Now let's all think back upon 6 months ago and all those New Year's resolutions we've created. How many of us have really kept them? No. A lot of no's across the platter. I was expecting at least one. I don't blame you. It's extremely hard to promise 365 days of something, to commit to something for 365 days. It's a lot of time. So let's not even think about the next month or the next week. I don't want you to plan for the future in this specific regard. I want you to focus on the present. Because the present is the only thing we can influence right now. Now I'm going to warn you, this challenge is something we normally don't do. It's something that goes against the very grain of our mind, against how we are mentally programmed. I challenge you to lose control. let go of the wheel that dictates your life. Lose control. And let God intervene in your life. We can all keep talking about our faith in God. But I'm asking for action. I'm asking for application. It's human nature to want control. Control is safe. Control is comfortable. The thing is, when we hold tight to our lives and live according only to our own prerogative, we are settling for a fragment, a segment, a sliver of the amazing masterpiece God has prepared for our lives. It's like looking at the Mona Lisa with your face an inch away from the canvas. This isn't going to be easy. As a matter of fact, it will be far from it. Faith isn't supposed to be comfortable. And oftentimes, you'll feel as if you are taking steps backwards in life. But have you ever considered that maybe you needed to step back a bit in order to see the bigger picture God has laid out in front of you? Noah had a strong faith in God. Noah was told that the world around him was about to be destroyed, and that if he did these certain tasks, he would be safe. Noah never argued. Noah never acted on his own behalf. Noah did exactly as God commanded. We can learn a lot from Noah. It amazes me that many people see the Bible as out of date or out of touch. But even something as popular and common as the Noah's Ark story, it still has its nuances for our everyday life. Lose control and let God be the captain.